Can a championship team really fall this far this fast without anyone noticing the avalanche until it's too late? The Boston Celtics, fresh off their 2024 NBA title celebration, are facing a roster dismantling so severe that it might go down as one of the most shocking championship hangovers in modern sports history. What's unfolding in Boston isn't just disappointing, it's borderline tragic, and the worst part is that much of this disaster appears to be self-inflicted. The signs are everywhere, but somehow the gravity of Boston's situation hasn't fully registered with the basketball world. Maybe it's because we're still basking in the afterglow of their championship run, or perhaps it's because the moves happening around the league are so dramatic that Boston's quiet implosion is being overshadowed. Whatever the reason, the Celtics are sleepwalking into a nightmare scenario that threatens to waste what should be the prime years of their championship core. The potential departure of Al Horford to the Golden State Warriors represents far more than just losing a veteran center. Horford has been the emotional and tactical anchor of Boston's championship foundation, the steady presence who made everything else possible during their title run. His versatility, leadership, and basketball IQ created the perfect complement to the Celtics' star-heavy lineup, and his departure would leave a void that extends far beyond the stat sheet. What makes Horford's likely exit particularly painful is the timing and circumstances surrounding it. At 39 years old, he's clearly in the twilight of his career, but he's also coming off a season where he proved he still has plenty left in the tank. The Warriors recognize his value, his ability to stretch the floor, protect the rim, and make the right play in crucial moments, which is exactly why they're pursuing him so aggressively. For Boston, losing Horford isn't just about replacing his production, it's about replacing his entire ecosystem of contributions. He was the player who could seamlessly switch between power forward and center, the veteran who could calm nerves during playoff runs, and the basketball savant who made everyone around him better. These intangible qualities are impossible to quantify, but absolutely essential for championship-level success. The Warriors' pursuit of Horford, delayed only by Jonathan Kuminga's unresolved restricted free agency situation, feels inevitable at this point. Golden State needs exactly what Horford provides: veteran leadership, positional flexibility, and championship experience, while Boston seems resigned to letting him walk rather than making the financial commitment necessary to keep him. The potential loss of Horford becomes even more catastrophic when viewed in the context of Boston's other moves at the center position. The Celtics have managed to create a perfect storm of roster mismanagement that has left them desperately thin at one of the most crucial positions in modern basketball. The trade of Kristaps Porzingis in a three-way deal with Atlanta and Brooklyn marked the beginning of Boston's center crisis. While Porzingis had his limitations, particularly regarding durability, he provided legitimate-size rim protection and three-point shooting that made him a valuable asset in specific matchups. His departure, driven largely by salary cap considerations, eliminated a key piece of Boston's frontcourt puzzle. The loss of Luke Kornet to San Antonio, who lured him away with a 4-year, $40.7 million contract, further depleted Boston's big man depth. Kornet may not have been a star, but he was a proven NBA rotation player who understood his role and executed it effectively. His departure to the Spurs represents exactly the type of secondary loss that championship teams simply cannot afford. Now, with Horford likely heading to Golden State, Boston faces the prospect of entering the season with a center rotation consisting of Luka Garza, Chris Boucher, and Neemias Queta. This trio reads more like a developmental league experiment than a professional basketball rotation for a team with championship aspirations. Garza, despite his college pedigree, has barely averaged 9 minutes per game over the past 3 seasons with Minnesota. Boucher, while a solid career backup in Toronto, has never been asked to carry the load that Boston might require. Queta remains largely unproven at the NBA level. Asking these 3 players to anchor the center position for a championship contender borders on basketball malpractice. If the center position crisis wasn't devastating enough, reports of Jayson Tatum's torn Achilles have effectively torpedoed any realistic championship hopes for the upcoming season. This injury, combined with the roster depletion, creates a scenario where Boston might be forced into an unexpected gap year, just one season removed from capturing the title. Tatum's injury fundamentally alters Boston's competitive timeline and makes every roster decision infinitely more complicated. Do they continue trying to maintain championship-level talent around an injured superstar, or do they accept a rebuilding year and focus on positioning themselves for future success? The uncertainty surrounding Tatum's recovery timeline makes these decisions even more challenging. The timing couldn't be worse from a roster construction standpoint. If Boston had known about Tatum's injury earlier in the offseason, they might have approached free agency and trades differently. Instead, they're caught in limbo, having already made several moves that assumed Tatum would be healthy and the team would remain competitive. This injury also provides context for why Horford might be willing to leave Boston for Golden State. At 39 years old, he doesn't have time to wait for Tatum to recover and the team to reload. The Warriors offer him a chance to compete for another championship immediately, while Boston offers uncertainty and potentially a lost season. The rumors linking Jimmy Butler to Boston in a potential trade with Golden State add another layer of intrigue to an already complex situation. The proposed deal, Butler and a first-round pick to Boston for Anthony Simons and Derek White, would represent a massive shakeup for both franchises and potentially alter the competitive landscape of both conferences. For Boston, acquiring Butler would provide immediate star power to potentially replace Tatum's production during his recovery. Butler's playoff experience, defensive intensity, and leadership qualities align perfectly with Boston's championship culture. However, the cost would be significant, particularly the loss of Derek White, who has become an essential piece of Boston's identity. The trade makes more sense from Boston's perspective than Golden State's, which is telling about the respective positions of both franchises. Boston needs immediate help and veteran leadership to navigate Tatum's absence, while the Warriors would be trading away immediate impact for longer-term considerations. The fact that such a trade is even being discussed suggests that Boston's situation is more desperate than many realize. However, the likelihood of this trade actually happening remains low. Golden State invested heavily to acquire Butler and likely views him as essential to their final championship push with the aging core of Stephen Curry and Draymond Green. Trading him away so quickly would represent a significant strategic reversal that doesn't align with their stated goals. Much of Boston's current predicament stems from their desire to reduce both short-term and long-term payroll obligations. The luxury tax implications of maintaining a championship-level roster have forced difficult decisions that are now coming back to haunt the organization. The Porzingis trade, the Kornet loss, and the potential Horford departure all trace back to financial considerations rather than basketball ones. This approach might make sense from a business perspective, but it represents a fundamental misunderstanding of championship windows in professional sports. Elite teams don't rebuild their rosters immediately after winning titles. They double down on success and worry about future financial implications later. Boston appears to be doing the opposite, prioritizing long-term financial flexibility over immediate competitive advantage. The irony is that this cost-cutting approach might actually be more expensive in the long run. If Boston's championship window closes prematurely due to roster depletion, the revenue lost from playoff runs and championship contention could far exceed the money saved through salary reduction. Championship teams generate enormous value through increased ticket sales, merchandise, and television revenue that makes luxury tax payments worthwhile. Boston's roster dismantling has created ripple effects throughout the NBA that extend far beyond their own competitive prospects. Horford's potential move to Golden State could significantly impact the Western Conference playoff race, while Boston's weakened state changes the dynamics of Eastern Conference competition. The Warriors' pursuit of Horford, along with potential additions like Anthony Melton and Gary Payton II, suggests they're making one final championship push with their aging core. If successful, Boston will have essentially gifted Golden State a key piece of their potential success while simultaneously weakening their own position. Other Eastern Conference contenders are undoubtedly taking notice of Boston's apparent vulnerability. Teams like Miami, Philadelphia, and Milwaukee might view the upcoming season as an opportunity to establish themselves as the East's premier franchise, while Boston deals with internal turmoil and roster limitations. The competitive balance implications extend beyond just one season. If Boston's championship window closes due to poor roster management, it could fundamentally alter the Eastern Conference hierarchy for years to come. Teams don't often get second chances at championship-level success, and Boston might be squandering theirs through short-sighted decision-making. Boston faces an uncomfortable choice about their immediate future. Do they attempt to salvage the upcoming season through aggressive roster moves, or do they accept a rebuilding year and focus on positioning themselves for future success once Tatum returns to full health? The salvage approach would require significant financial investment and creative roster construction. They would need to find legitimate NBA centers through trade or free agency, potentially overpaying for players who might not otherwise be available. This strategy carries substantial risk, as they could mortgage future assets for a season that might already be lost due to Tatum's injury. The reset approach offers more long-term stability, but requires accepting short-term disappointment. Boston could use the upcoming season to develop younger players, evaluate roster pieces, and position themselves for more aggressive moves once Tatum's health is clarified. However, this approach risks wasting a year of their championship core's prime and potentially losing veteran players who want to compete immediately. Neither option is particularly appealing, which highlights just how dire Boston's situation has become. Championship teams shouldn't face these types of fundamental choices just 1 year after winning a title, but poor roster management has forced Boston into an uncomfortable corner. What we're witnessing in Boston might represent one of the most severe championship hangovers in recent NBA history. The combination of injury luck, financial constraints, and questionable roster decisions has created a perfect storm that threatens to derail what should have been a sustained period of excellence. Championship hangovers are real phenomena in professional sports, but they usually result from salary cap constraints, aging rosters, or key players leaving for bigger contracts. Boston's situation is unique because it stems largely from self-inflicted decisions rather than external circumstances beyond their control. The tragedy is that this situation was largely preventable. Boston had the foundation of a championship team and the financial resources to maintain that foundation. Instead, they chose short-term financial relief over competitive continuity, and now they're paying the price through roster depletion and uncertain competitive prospects. The Celtics championship hangover serves as a cautionary tale for other franchises about the delicate balance between financial responsibility and competitive maintenance. Championships are rare and precious, and the window for sustained success is often smaller than organizations realize. Boston's current predicament demonstrates what happens when teams prioritize balance sheets over banners. The most painful aspect of Boston's situation might be the missed opportunity it represents. They had lightning in a bottle with their championship team, but instead of nurturing that success, they've systematically dismantled it through a series of questionable decisions. Now, they're left hoping that Tatum recovers fully, their remaining core stays healthy, and they can somehow rebuild what they've torn down. The Al Horford departure, should it happen, will symbolize everything wrong with Boston's approach to championship management. They're allowing a proven winner and team leader to walk away for financial reasons, weakening their own competitive position while strengthening a Western Conference rival. It's the type of move that franchises regret for years, and Boston might be making it in real time. What's your take on Boston's shocking fall from grace? Is this just a temporary setback that they can overcome? Or are we watching a championship team completely implode due to poor management decisions? The Celtics situation is unfolding in real time, and your perspective on whether they can salvage this mess or if we're witnessing one of the most stunning championship hangovers ever might be exactly what we need to make sense of this basketball tragedy. Let me know what you think is going to happen next.